Town girl. Town girl. Town girl.
Welcome to Tom Girl, where we talk all things sports, entertainment, fashion, and adventure. Today's guest is a former professional basketball player who's empowering athletes globally through his Overseas Famous and OverseasX businesses. A true athlete advocate, his mission is to steer athletes through successful career transitions and tackle the often overlooked aspects of mental health. He is also an author, podcast host, dad, coach, and Philadelphia sports fanatic. Welcome to the show, Kevin Owens.
Thank you so much. That really, that intro, it makes me sound really important. I'm like listening. I'm like, I sound way more important than I am, and I love that. It's great work. It's a good
Oh,
start.
thanks. No, you are very important, and what all you've done and what you're doing is just fantastic. So, thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
the time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's start. Fellow basketball geek here. I want to go back to the early days for you and just talk about when, like, your first, love of basketball started.
Absolutely. So it's funny because I'm reliving this now through my daughter, who is
Mhm.
12 going on 13. So I'm watching her love, and I'm always comparing myself to her. Like, where was she at? Where was I at? Where was she at? So I will say that I was not good at basketball. My through middle school, seventh grade, I actually was a very competitive swimmer, a really good swimmer, was going to, Junior Olympics, lots of competitive tournament, swimming meets. And the problem was my brother was a really good basketball player. So I'm watching him. The crowds are all watching him. I jump into a pool. No one's watching me. It was just what, as a young kid, you're like, why is he get all these people cheering for him? And I'm on this stupid sport no one cares about. So I almost started concentrating more on basketball because I watched him succeed. And I guess it was probably between seventh and eighth grade, I started taking a little more seriously. Eighth grade, I didn't start. I was like seventh man on my middle school team, which was okay. We weren't like the best. Then I went to high school, played on the freshman team. Sophomore year, like didn't start on my JV team. Junior year, started JV team, played some varsity, and then senior year, I was nominated to the McDonald's All American team. So it was a very weird journey. Mine's very unique, but I think it was probably during that high school time that I really fell in love with it. I think it was probably between the start of my junior year and the end of my senior year where I was like hooked. And I think it was because you were getting the accolades, which is one thing people don't think about. Like when when you're not getting the accolades, it's hard to love something. When you see the results, when you put in the work and you see the results and you get the accolades, it's a lot easier to love something when you don't have to grind it out for just year after year. It's like overseas sometimes. So yeah, that was when my love of the game really started. It was just unorthodox, but it was my journey.
And how was that transition where you're saying going from, not playing as much to now all of a sudden making the McDonald's team all American, how that's a big, huge jump.
It's crazy, and I think honestly, it was because I never had that success early, so always was chasing. I was always chasing everyone else. I never had early success, so everything I was doing was like, I want to be like that. I need to work to get there. What am I going to do to work to get there? And I think that's what that discipline. I almost was self-disciplined because I had to chase everyone else, and I didn't get anything. Like I know a lot of kids. You start you're on some obscure AAU team just so you can feel good about starting, etc. All of these different things where you're just playing and playing, but did you earn the spot? So sometimes that's the biggest issue is you come back and someone who hasn't really worked hard, but they've kind of gotten that accolade. Now they start getting more difficult. That's when they're going to struggle. For me, I never really struggled because I was always chasing. I was started low, so I was always reaching up. I think when you start a little higher and you start, it's like it's harder to get that love, to get that chase, to get that competitiveness when you're constantly given everything. And I think that's unfortunately what's happening with a lot of athletes these days is they're giving it up front and they never had to work for it. I had to work for it, which made me my hunger just through the roof.
And then that pushed a drive in you to go and want to play in college. Tell me about that process of moving on to college ball.
And which was crazy because if you asked me 3 years ago, like freshman, sophomore year in high school, if I was going to play college basketball, I would have probably laughed and been like, what? Like, this doesn't make sense. However, my brother, again, went through the recruiting process after my sophomore year, went to UPenn, but he was going through that whole process and I saw it. And I, again, saw that, if I worked like he did and if I can achieve what he did and get to where he did in 2 years, I could be in the same boat. And that was really what drove me into being a college athlete. By the time my junior year came, I was getting accolades. I was going to camps, 5-star camp, all these different camps, being trained by some of the best players in the world, like Christian Leitner and things, and all these coaches. So I got like the gauntlet of the best coaches possible with my high school coach on top of that, who was also the best. But all of these coaches teaching me and growing, and I was just a sponge. So by the time I got to that time where the recruiting process started, I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I was starting to get letters, but everyone gets letters, and that's what I heard. Everyone gets letters. It was not until the first day of calls when Henry Bibby, who was then the coach of USC, Southern California, called me. Now I'm a New Jersey kid. Like
Mhm.
California, I've never even done it. It's just like what you hear about in the movies. I'd never been to California. We didn't really have money growing up, so I couldn't really travel. So California was like beyond my wildest dreams, and that's almost where it stayed because I was like, that's so far. Like, can I jump into this? And I was not ready for giant leaps like that. So I ended up coming closer, looking at the closer schools. Went to Monmouth University, Division 1, and I thought I set goals when I went there, thinking, "Hey, there's a lot bigger schools recruiting you, but will you play? You don't know." So I set goals for myself at Monmouth. I want to be 1,000 point scorer. I want to start for 4 years. I want to go to the NCAA tournament, and that's when I put that in my notebook. I started making goals, and I was 1,000 point scorer. I started for 4 years, and I went to the NCAA tournament. So it was a cool experience to
Yeah.
go to Monmouth. And I look back and go, thank God I made that decision because it was right for me at the time. It might not have been right for me in terms of other people outside might have been like, well, that was right for me. It wasn't right for me. So that was my decision. And I'm very happy I did it because I think it allowed me to grow a little bit safer in that sense. Like I was not just jumping into something that might have been too much for me to take. I did baby steps and I worked my way up, and now it doesn't matter. I mean, I got on a plane to Estonia by myself. It doesn't really matter at this point.
Yeah, yeah. What did you learn as a college athlete as far as, balancing the grind of basketball and school and all the lifestyle?
It was tough. Uh, High school, I was 195 pounds, and I was my size, so I was 6'9", 195 pounds. Not very. You're watching Top Gun and movies and all these jacked people, and then there's my skinny, like can barely make it up, and I'm like, I look so skinny. Like basically, I was not really socially like the girls weren't chasing me at that point. I was too gangly and weird. So by college, I think as I started growing and getting stronger, my personality, I grew confidence in myself. I didn't really have that in high school. I was always kind of chasing, and I was always like, am I good enough to do this? I don't know. It wasn't until college when I started realizing, like, I belong here. Like, I'm the best player here. I can do this here. I can do this here. I can get stronger. Girls are starting to talk to me. I'm funny on my own. Like all of these things started coming. And I think that's when I really discovered myself when I went to college and was able to kind of step away from my comfort zone and start discovering who I was. I think that was a really big jump in terms of everything. My confidence took me far, and I didn't really have it until I got to college. I think that's the biggest growth I had.
Mhm. And then how did that confidence or how did that growth help you then prepare for then basketball beyond college?
It was, again, I was always taking these jumps, and I think that was like, not to say like I had training wheels my whole life, but that was kind of how I would describe it. Like I never took a huge leap because I was never really that person to like, oh, this could be scary. I'm going to leap in. It wasn't until that college where I started developing that confidence to say, all right, like I can make this. I've seen players play here. I've played against this guy who went to this university. He's playing in the G League now. I can definitely get there. My mom was instrumental in that. My mom and dad both. My dad was like, "Be tough, be strong," and my mom was more subtle. She was "I
Mm.
Hope You Dance," the Leanne Womack song. That was her thing to me. Like she loved it, but I still feel small when you stand behind beside the ocean. But like it was more "I Hope You Dance." Like, don't be afraid of taking that chance. And she always, that was the song that, my mom and I danced to at my wedding. That was a song she's always told me about, to like, listen to the lyrics and it will get you through. And that was, it was true. So, by going through college and realizing how good I was able to take that leap into professional basketball and go to an exposure camp and try to make my way into professional basketball. And again, I was just taking leaps. Go to an exposure camp. I did well there. Go to a G League, to get invited, get drafted by the D League, late round, not going to make the team from what I was told, going there with nothing to lose, and I ended up making the team and playing there for 3 years, and which took me all over the world. So it was
Yeah.
those baby steps. Some people want to take big jumps. I took baby steps, and I worked out well. Again, we all run our own races, so that was my race.
Yeah, it worked out well. Well, then let's talk about because you talked about it in your book, Overseas Famous, that you then wrote and told all these stories, which I found just fascinating because I had a couple teammates play overseas too, but I honestly haven't heard like many of their stories and their
Yeah,
experiences from. You just hear bits and pieces, But so you get really in depth of what it is like being overseas. So I mean, maybe pick a few of your favorites or kind of tell us about the book and kind of those special moments that are in there that you chose to tell more about.
of course. So the reason I wrote it, my brother said to me, my brother played pro basketball as well, played in France. He played in the G League as well. We were teammates for a short time professionally, which oddly enough, he was really good in middle school. I was not. I was not on the team. And then he went to high school. We went to different high schools, so we didn't play together. We went to different colleges, didn't play together, so we ended up playing pro, which is cool. But we are my journey, like the some of the stories. Like my brother was like, dude, everything that's happened to you overseas is like you're like a lightning rod. If people said, "What would overseas be like? Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly." Your story encompasses all of them. He's like, it's you're pretty rare in that you had really good successes, amazing times, amazing places, and you've had like the worst things that could happen, the craziest things that could happen. So some of the good, being able to live in Australia was a dream of mine on my bucket list, and I lived there, and it's the one of my favorite places on this planet. A place that I want to get back to and see my old friends and see just explore that with the children I have now. And so those are things that the Australia was definitely the good. The bad, the playing so well, continuing to stack pro contracts was great because that's the one thing they'll tell you about overseas athletes. Like you might play 1 year, but then playing 2 years and 3 years and 4, it's just like the NBA. Like unless you're a superstar, you won't probably last unless you do something really well. So an NBA journeyman has been around for a long time. The stories they have and the experience they have is unbelievable. So being able to stack contracts, that was good. The bad, there's a lot of it. In Korea, I got hurt. They didn't honor my contract. They told me to go home, get an MRI. I have all this writing. I talked to the guy. Go home, get it in writing, get the MRI. We will then pay you the rest of your contract. Are not doing that now. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm staying here. They were like, no, you're going home. Like, we're sending you home or you're practicing. So my agent's like, fine, we'll do it home. Got home, did all the stuff, called them. They're like, who's this? I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So they just, I mean, that's $175,000 that I'll never see. That I kind of like was out for 6 months, was not able to play. That should have covered me. It's one of those things. At the time, I was real mad about it. Now it's just life lessons. You just live in. I mean, money's money. Oh well, you live and learn. You move on. You don't dwell on it. So that was a negative. And just I think the coolest part of playing overseas was the crowd. I mentioned that in the Kosovo chapter. I've never played in a crowd like that, throwing stuff onto the court, coins, glass. They were broke the glass so we're playing. There's all the fans are up elevated above us in like a almost I don't even know what like where's the thing of the in an opera hat where the Muppets, the
Oh
angry
yeah.
Muppets old men said like that whole like mezzanine, like they're all sitting up there all around us, smoke billowing, they're throwing stuff at us. we started winning and the opposing fans started breaking the glass. Like they were behind them and there was a windows, but it had like the metal meshing over it. They didn't care. They broke it. We're throwing it onto the court. It was a cup game. It was the final game. They didn't care. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And like security had to come out and hold up barriers. We were all huddled in the corner. Things were banging off the barriers. I'm like, I can't believe this is where I remember looking at one of my teammates who's now one of the heads of FIBA for Kosovo, and just looking at Granite and just being like, I can't, like, what is this? Like,
Mhm.
where am I? Like, I can't believe, like, people are never going to know about this. And that was one of the real reasons why I have all these stories, these crazy things that happen. It's just so interesting. I went to an airport. We've like pulled off the concrete of the like parking lot, and you were on a dirt road. I mean, just like wild things that you wouldn't think. But then I played in some of the best, like you play in some of these weird places. You're like, how is this professional basketball? But then you've also played in places where you're like, you're one of the top professional basketball teams in the world. And you're like, it's just such a weird thing because you're getting paid and you kind of chase money, but at the same time, like you're chasing places and you're chasing experiences, and it's all wild, it's all fun. But the one thing, like I tell athletes all the time, like write it down and don't. You're gonna that story is gonna be hilarious in a few years. You are so mad right now, but it's going to be the funniest thing you tell people in about 10 years. So don't worry, you'll get
Yeah.
some laughs. You're gonna get it. You'll get that on the backside.
Yeah. Making a good story. Tell everybody some
Exactly.
of the more of the teams that who you all played for.
Of course. So I started, I was in the G League. It was the D League at the time. I played in Roanoke, Virginia for a team called the Roanoke Dazzle. Amazing. I love the coaches. I love the staff. Just the teammates, unbelievable. Corey Alexander, who's now one of the leading announcers out there for basketball right now. CA was such a good leader for me. Captain taught me so much. Mikey Moore. So like
I got to say
amazing.
real quick, not to interrupt you,
Uh,
but real quick on Mikey Moore. I saw that in the book. I know we went to Nebraska together. So I was like, oh,
oh,
there's
Mikey.
Mikey. I love
I love
Mikey.
Mikey. Love Mikey. Mikey did the same thing. Like him and Corey had different ways about him, but like Corey was very like your prototypical leader. Mikey like led by example, but he also would give you tips like in the middle of something. Like you'd be playing him one on one. He's like, no, 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 do that. And he was so good for my game and just a great dude.
Mm.
I mean, these guys were so phenomenal for me, and I wouldn't have been anywhere without Mikey and Corey. I mean, CA and Mikey like did such great jobs. So those guys helped me in the G League, and then I went kind of went to Poland, played for Anwil Rosławik. Kind of the money dried up. Both of our imports, we had to go home. The money was done. So I went home and went back to the G League for a little bit, and then I was like, I'm done. I was making 12,000 to 18,000 dollars a year. I was like, this is like I'm making less than all of my friends working normal jobs. I have to make money doing this. I'm so close to the NBA, but I'm sitting here making not able to buy buy rounds for Jordan, like bar rounds for the bar. Like I'm not a baller. I'm just have the label, so I don't have the wallet. So I ended up going to Australia after that, where I played for Cairns Taipans in the NBL. Amazing experience, and then that's when I went to Korea, and I went South Korea, and I went to Hyundai Mobis Phoebus. Good start. Hurt my knee. They sent me home. Was out for a few months rehabbing. I went. Had to miss. I like had opportunities to go back to the NBL to Australia. Couldn't do it. My knee wasn't ready. Ended up having to go to New Zealand. Play there for a season. Amazing experience as well. New Zealand's beautiful people. So I played for the Century City Saints in Wellington. Then that's when like that injury kept creeping around. So it was like it was still there, but it wasn't better. And I ended up taking some more time off, healed it, and then I went to Kosovo and I played for Sigel Pristina, which is a Euro Cup league, Euro Cup team, very, very biggest team in Kosovo, but like a huge team in their own right. So really successful, got to win a championship there, and then went to Estonia for BC Karlov and played out my days in Estonia in the snow. It was awesome. So it was a really cool experience. Amazing. I loved it all, most of it. But yeah, the ups and downs are fun. But yeah, that's all the places I play. But it's just cool too because even when you're playing in those spots, I mean, Australia, I've been to every major city in Australia. I've been to Lithuania, Latvia, like all of these different places playing in Euro Cup and Euro, all these different other competitions. So France, Paris, like it's just been a really cool experience. So the travel's been fun, and it's fun to look at back on now and
Mhm.
realize I can't believe I've been to all these places. I
Yeah.
can't believe I've done this with my life. So it's cool.
Yeah. I love how honest you are in the book. And everybody looks at athletes and thinks, oh, they just, have it made and it's such a dream life, right? You're getting paid to play basketball. But you talk also about some of the low points in there. So just talk about what you felt as far as you talk a lot about, mental toughness and the mindset and kind of the roller coaster ride your mind went on over the course of your career.
Oh yeah, of course. So like the crazy thing too with basketball is like you have to be adaptable. You have to adapt. I mean, in any level, because you're playing. I mean, God, especially nowadays, like even the AAU youth level, people are shifting teams, going to different teams, different programs, bouncing around, trying to get the best possible avenue to make themselves successful. So as you bounce around, you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to come into a situation and make sure that you are keeping up with the whole rest of the team. You can't just come in and disrupt something that will get you fired very quickly. So I think the biggest thing was dealing with being adaptable, which was not always easy. You have to come into a new situation. You most of the time overseas, I would get a call. I think the quickest or the slowest I ever left when my agent called me to go overseas was I had a week, and that was a gift. The shortest was about 21 hours where like I kind of knew that they were going to offer me a contract, but I wasn't sure. They offered me the contract. It's like, you have to sign it. I signed it. And within 21 hours, my bags were packed and I was at the airport. So like, that's a crazy thing because you are living your life and then your agent calls and says, you have to go and you have to go like immediately within a day. You're on the plane, you're over there, and then you're landing and you don't know the customs, you don't know the language, you're trying to Google stuff, you're trying to figure it out as you go. And there's just so much that they don't tell you. Like you're in a completely new world. There, you don't. Where am I living? I mean, it's like the only time you're leaving somewhere and being like, I have no idea what's happening. Like I could get there and they could be like, you're living in the street, and I'd be like, I guess that's where I'm living. Like you do, you are so trusting. It's such a trusting endeavor, and which obviously opens up scammers, but that's a whole nother issue. But I think that was the real thing is being adaptable, and then the other thing is the loneliness. That's what got me. As you continue to travel and as you're continuing to go, and if you're dealing with injuries and you're dealing with pain and you're all by yourself, which I was, it becomes tough to manage, and you're 6 to 8 hours ahead of people back home, so you can't really communicate on the same time. So those times when you're by yourself and it's just you, that's really tough. It's tough to keep your mind occupied, to keep your mind focused on that you are there to not only do a job, but do a job better than 99.99% of the rest of the world can do it. So your mentality has to be locked in. So you gotta you got to figure it out. Like it's hard because you always say the best places when you're happy off the court, you're happy on the court. If you're sad off the court, you're probably sad on the court. So when you see some situations of like, this guy was really good here, but now he's not playing so well here, I always look at it, it's like it's probably a lot of off the court stuff or they're dealing with stuff because it's going to impact you. So I think the loneliness was really hard when it's just you're stacking years and it's just like, okay, I'm back over here. I'm back alone again for 10 months. Okay, like 2 months on. Hey everyone. Okay, I'm back over here. You learn, I think, it helped me later in life because I feel like I'm very independent. Like I can just go and do my own thing. I don't have to anyone who needs to, hey, man, are you okay? Are you doing this? I'm like, I can lock in and just uber focused because I've lived my life like that for so long that right now it's just kind of a choice. Like you just go in and you do what you need to do without really worrying about anything else. And I think that's what that loneliness taught me was, it's you and you up here. Like, how are you going to handle it? Like, it's you versus you. Like, you're going to either make excuses or you're going to make yourself better. And you're going to look at this as a positive. So just turning those negative situations into positives. That was always tough to do.
Yeah, and then you talk in the book about New Zealand kind of being a new, like a spiritual awakening for you. You call it.
Yes.
So tell me what was so positive and wonderful about that experience and what you learned there.
It's same thing. And it started right away. I got to New Zealand. Obviously you're flying on a long flight. I'm flying from Philadelphia to LA, then to like a 13-hour flight to New Zealand. Now I just done it in Australia not too long, and I just done it South Korea a few months before, so I was like, I'll be fine. Like, so the flight doesn't bother me because you just make yourself occupied. But when I got there, New Zealand, I knew it was going to be different. I got off the plane. We were playing in Nelson on the South Island, and I flew into Nelson. We ended up meeting my team. It was late. I went to the game, and I was so tired. I like barely slept on the plane. I got off the plane, and got done the game, and I was like, I'm going back to my hotel. I like met some of the team, and they're like, no, you're coming out with us. And I was like, this is a really bad idea. And I did it. And I was like, I went out all night. And then we like got on the plane the next morning. I was so hungover, but like we just kept going. And the team was so fun, and everyone was so cool and down to earth and like so welcoming. Like everyone, coaches, trainers, players, like I've never seen a team like so welcoming, so inviting. Nick Mills did a fantastic job. His son Nick still runs it up there, but like or down there, but just a tremendous job of welcoming an American and making them feel important and loved and cared for. That changed everything. And we that team, we went out a lot. We went hard off the court, but we also went hard on the court. So it was one of those awakenings, both basketball and mentally, because my buddy, who's still one of my closest friends, Nick Horvath, Nick played at Duke. Nick and I like had a great time. We were just always hanging out. We were always together, and like Nick was great because he had that Duke work like whole entire mindset. So I knew I used to work on my stuff after practice. His was a different level. It's like, do you want to do like burpee medicine ball tosses after practice? And like everyone in there, even Kobe's like, no. And like for some reason, I was like, all right. So we just were doing the craziest stuff every day after practice. But we just had a great time. Happy there, so happy, played well. And it was just a lot of fun. It was a place that reinvigorated my love for the game with just New Zealand. And if you ever feel, I feel like the country itself does that. So if you're ever feeling that way and you go to New Zealand, I bet you'll feel better. I bet you will feel amazing when you leave there because it's just so beautiful and the people are so welcoming.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Sign me up. I'm ready to go.
It's so perfect, so perfect.
Yeah. So talk about your very last game and a lot of the thoughts that were going through your head, when that you finally left the court for the last time.
So this is one of the funny stories, which is then took me into my second life
Mhm.
because I'm leaving the court and all of these. We talk. I mean, I've cried after every high school like my junior, and senior high school seasons. I was, you're hysterically crying at the end of the year, even though you're just like, this is the best team ever. And then like if you looked in the future, you're like, dude, this is a high school team. You're going so much bigger, but you're so invested. You're emotional. College, the same thing. So like every year, it's like an emotional. You're like, man, all that hard work, all of that, it's finished. Now what do we do? And that became my always the second thought. Okay, now what? Now what are you doing? Because in overseas basketball, you aren't on a same contract. Like the team, you leave that team and you're fighting for another contract the next year. Most of the time, it's your agents like, hey, let me see what we can find this year. You did well, so it shouldn't be too hard. But that time I knew it was over. I just could feel that I wasn't the same. I wasn't moving the same. I mean, my Estonian season was not great. I just couldn't I knew my knee was shot. I knew it was done. I just had to get it replaced in real life. But it was just a bad situation. So I knew walking off the court was probably my last game. So I walk off the court. They're all chanting, like cheering and stuff. We walk off after a win. Last game, I take my jersey off, I sign it, give it to a fan, which was crazy because I always took my jerseys and I still have my blue, or no, my white uh, BC College jersey, but I gave a fan, which I've never done. I have all of my other jerseys. I gave that to a fan, signed it, walked out, like, this is awesome. And 3 days later, I got home, was walking through Philadelphia airport, and someone was stopped me, was just like, "Oh my God, you're tall. Like, you should play for the Sixers." And I'm like, "What just happened?" Like, I just was like this long career. I played. People knew who I was. I was so big. I'm taking my jersey off and signing it for kids, screaming my name. And then I come home and like I'm in my own town, pretty much like where I'm from, and people are like, I have no idea who you are, but you should do something better than what you're doing because clearly you are tall and should play for the Sixers. And I'm like, man, and that's when Overseas Famous hit happened because it was like, man, I'm only famous there. Like I'm only overseas famous. I'm not famous in
Mhm.
this country at all. I'm just another person. And that kind of brought on what I started doing for Overseas Famous and Overseas X. That moment was a really defining one that changed how I started thinking about things because I knew that the second part of life was just about to begin.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that second part.
Let's do
Yeah, let's
it.
talk about what you've created and what you're doing.
Of course. So Overseas Famous started again. My brother said, write the book. That was step one. I was like, all right, I'm done. Let me write this book. Let me start putting these stories down and start bringing myself back into the overseas world. I was doing a podcast, but it was more like local sports, high school sports. Um, and then I guess I was almost on my book and I knew that I had the book coming. So I was like, why don't I just do this podcast by myself and I'll change it to Overseas Famous and it will just be like, it will kind of match the book and I'll have a podcast. So I started doing that and just interviewing overseas athletes, which then took me into that whole entire world, which I just, at that time I was like, I'm going to write a book. I want to be a voice. I want to be a sounding board. I want overseas athletes to come to me and voice anything that they need, and I can try to bring it to the American audience, the American investors, etc. So by doing that for a long time, I was doing it, and doing it like how I do things, which is I give a lot of my time. I always say I'm trying not to complain, but it's so hard because like I'm going to AAU tournaments every weekend. I'm coaching the team. Everything's for free. Like I'm doing all this stuff for free, and I'm like, man, like it's amazing, and I feel good about myself, but I need to make a living. Like we got to do something. So that's when I started putting my business hat on and started thinking about how I could help athletes in a grander scale than me just reaching out and being like, here, connect this person, connect you two. Great. And I've done that for so many people. But then it was more, how can I turn this into a business, which is why we created Overseas X, which is an ecosystem where we have overseas athletes. We have every resource that I possibly could have ever used. We have a training, nutrition, financial advising, tax experts. I'm like drawing a blank, but we have all these resources and experts, and a lot of professional athletes, overseas athletes who are now retired, along with a lot of veteran overseas athletes, guys and girls who have been there and are kind of towards the end, but have a really good veteran voice. So we brought them on, and now we're, in July, we're going to start onboarding athletes and growing this. So we have an ecosystem where athletes can help athletes, resources are available for them, and they can just sign up and be able to utilize all these different things that I knew I needed because when I retired, it was hard. I didn't have anyone. I had to create everything on my own, even the book, all of these things. I didn't have my agent was great at getting me basketball jobs. But then in terms of off the court stuff, they have 25 clients that they're trying to get basketball jobs for. They don't really have time to go back to America and be like, let me find you a normal job, which they want you to kind of do on their own. So what I said, I was like, yes, but we don't know. When we're gone for 10 years, you come back to this country. And I said, I was like, I always compared to Homer Simpson disappearing into the bushes. Like, you're an athlete. You're like a Tyler Hansbrough, or you're a Kemba Walker, and everyone's like, "What's Kemba Walker doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, he went overseas," and everyone just kind of like it's this generic term that you're like, "Oh, overseas," but you don't really stop and think like, what is that life like? Like, what is he experiencing now in a different world? And if they knew how interesting and fascinating it was, more people would start following overseas sports just to
Mhm.
see the off the court stuff. So that's what we're doing with Overseas X. We're trying to gain exposure. We're trying to build resources. We're trying to, get ourselves in that overseas market as a voice to help and to make sure that really our main message is you're not alone. Because I felt very alone when I retired. I was completely alone, and I just struggled with it. And you go through your entire life with a coach being like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then it just
Yeah.
ends. And you're like, who's telling me what to do? And you have to train your brain to be like, you are telling yourself what to do, which you always did on the off season. But like in terms of something this great when you have no business experience, like what am I supposed to be doing today? It's that took some time, and I had a lot of help and a lot of great people in my life who helped me, guided me, but yeah, those are the struggles that overseas athletes face when they come home. You're unknown. You're known over there. You come here, you don't have the network, you don't have the name anymore, and you have to start almost at the bottom and work yourself back up. My goal is to give you a little bit of a nudge up so you're not starting at the bottom, you're kind of starting in the middle where you can then be successful off the court. So that's what we're doing at Overseas X, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. I love it. And what much a much needed thing. Like you said, after you've done something your whole life to transition into make a change is difficult.
Yeah, it's tough, and that's the cool thing about it is we are adaptable. So I'm always like, okay, this didn't work. What else? And I think the cool thing that we have in terms of our mentality to be successful businessmen and businesswomen is that we have that failure. We failed so many times. I mean, you can't be an athlete and be like, I've never failed. Like I've lost so many games. I've gotten dunked on by some of the greatest
Mhm.
players. I've gotten, you know, beaten by players that are less than me. You have to wash it off and let it rinse away and just keep playing. And I think that's like that resiliency. It does you well because you failed so many times. You know how to fail and you know how to climb back up. So some people don't know how to fail, and that first failure, it's going to set them back. I mean, with doing this and Overseas X and Overseas Famous, I mean, I failed, lost tons of money, but I'm like, all right, I'm learning, I'm growing. Here's what I'm going to do. This is what I messed up here. This is what I'm going to do. Now, granted, I'm lucky because of my past career. I've been able to do that and have mistakes. It's not as easy, and I get that with some people. But I still think if you start taking a few risks and putting yourself out there, which I never had a problem with, I think you could be successful. So I'm always out there like, hey man, whatever you need, whatever I'm my life is an open book, literally.
Yeah. What are some of the lessons that you've learned now in creating this business?
I think the one thing that's crazy is something that I said in the beginning, and I was like, "We're going to have to figure this out because when we start a business and you are bringing on athletes as part of the revenue for the business. Athletes don't like to pay for anything. Like we don't like we are used to free.
Yeah.
So if it's not free, it's like, what am I paying for? Like you fail to see the the need for something that's not free. You're like, you really don't do a good job of investing in yourself unless it's on the court for basketball. So you go to the best trainer and you're like, I'm going to have to pay him a lot of money, but you're never really investing in the other side. Are you investing in your off the court life? Are you going home and working on your network? Are you part of the community, actively writing people every day, being like, hey, I'm 2 3 years away from retiring, is there something that we can work on? I think those are the lessons that really I've learned. That you're going to bounce back. Like things are going to be okay. You have to have patience, and I think all of these different skills I learned from basketball, and they help me so much in professional life. Which is why I think by developing Overseas X, I'm hoping within a year, 2 years, we have this huge platform of athletes and those athletes are able to handle anything that's thrown their way. They're durable, they're resilient athletes that can perform a high level task, they can perform a high level job, be successful, and really make good money and make this world, more successful. So I think when you really dive into that mentality of the athlete, all those intangibles are there. It's just going to be what we try to do is show you how to access them and how to best utilize them so you're not falling on your face 1,000 times. So it makes it a little easier. My whole entire mindset of this is let me make the mistakes. I will direct you what to do. It's the same thing I try to do with my daughter. Don't make the same mistakes I did. And she's just out there making the same mistakes. I'm like, this sucks, but I can't actually physically do it for you. So you're going to
Yeah.
have to learn on your own, but that's life. So trying my best. And that's the hardest thing. Invest in yourself. If you're an athlete, please invest in yourself. I know $9.99 per month for a platform that can get you a lot of networking and stuff when you can use LinkedIn filled with people you don't know, people you don't trust. So that's like a big thing where I'm like, guys, like just invest in yourself. And like I always say, I was like, the $9.99 is just so the site can actually be active. Like we're not making tons of money, guys. It's just to get this going and get it active. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say invest in yourself. That's my biggest advice for athletes right now.
Okay. I love it. What you're creating is just wonderful. I just, so needed. So that's great. I have
Thank you.
one more question for you.
Of
You
course.
made me think of it while you were talking because I remember reading in the book, and I think this is as interesting as athletes. No matter what level, I feel like there's kind of this question that you said you asked yourself, was I good enough, or or just
Hmm.
having those just feeling like you failed. Like you wrote that you felt like you failed because you didn't live up to your dreams in the
Hmm.
NBA, but you had this amazing career, So like, what do you say either to yourself or to athletes too? Because I think we are such like perfectionists, and we're all so driven that when we don't get to that notch, it just does kind of eat at us for years. Like I still regret things like in college. I'm like, gosh, should I have done this? But like, so yeah, what do you say to yourself to get through that? Or and then with the athletes that you talk to be like getting the positive mindset going.
Of, Absolutely. So that's a really good question because that really does. It's always going to be in the back of your mind. And my advice is just leave it there. Like you are not, like you said, you're not perfect. And a lot of times we are put on a pedestal of perfection. You are looked at as you are one of the 90, 0.0002% of athletes who are able to make it to professional sports. You are doing such a great job. Uh, so when you think about like, well, I didn't achieve this goal, I didn't achieve this goal. If you didn't achieve that goal, but you gave every possible thing you could have, and I'm not talking, I mean, we could all sit there and be like, I probably watched TV and didn't shoot for an hour one day. Like, when I look at my schedule, I worked really hard and I pushed myself really hard and I did everything that I think I needed to do to become a professional basketball player. And by doing that, I think I maximized myself and my body. Do I think I could have gone further? Probably, possibly. But at the same time, I think the one thing I had to do is just also be very proud of where I've been and what I've done. And if you can walk away looking at it and going, you know what, I might not have been here, but I sure as hell was here and I really handled here. So that has to be, you have to give yourself some grace. You have to give yourself some slack. And you also have to realize like, there's nothing you can do about it now. Like like I can't sit there as 45-year-old be like, I wish I could have gone back. Like, yes, you could, but like there's nothing you could do about it now. So how in your normal life now, what
Mhm.
can you do to change that? And I think that was the big thing. I think I had to have that conversation with myself in between the D League and overseas, where I was like, this dream is done. Like, we're done with this. Like, you want to make money. You are good enough to make money in this game. This dream has to change because if you stay much longer, you might make it, but you're going to make what at the time $30,000 for a 10-day contract, and you're like, in the grand scheme of things, like woohoo, that's awesome. But like, you're chasing six-figure contracts where you're playing the whole year. It's almost like what are we doing? Like, what are you doing? Let's start making logical decisions. But I think really just you have to look at what you've done. If I was looking at it going like I probably should have played professionally, yeah, I'd probably have more regrets, but I lived my life, gave everything I could, gave my knees, my elbow, my whole entire body to this game, and I think the game gave me a lot back, and I'm
Yeah.
really proud of that journey. Even though it wasn't perfect, it was perfect for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Lastly, what aspects now in this business do you still have your athlete mode when you're doing your business? Like, are you on a set structure or do you have certain things like goals you're going to accomplish each day? What's your
Yep.
mindset with business?
So I write everything down. So I have a list that I compile. I'll usually get through. So this is how it works. I'll like get through Monday night and I'll be like, you know how it is. Like you're like, I'm gonna get everything done today. And you get to Monday night and you're like, I still have half of these things to do. So you're like, okay, tomorrow we're gonna get. So
Yeah.
it just becomes I write things down and I like take my Sharpie everywhere and I just cross them out, cross them out. I knock something out, I cross it out, and I get that little dopamine of like, oh, you accomplished a task. So like by just crossing those little things out, it does give me a little more motivation. I'm also very, it's like you're competitive too. So the competitiveness, and it's funny because I've had lots of conversations with other people who are building similar kind of things, but not really a community, but like similar things that they could kind of conjoin. And it's like your competitiveness comes in. You're like, well, why, you knew I was doing this. Why did you do this? But then you start realizing and this is where my higher level thinking comes in as a not a competitive moron athlete anymore. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to beat you. Now you're like, well, how can we collaborate? How can we work together? Because the whole entire point of this whole entire endeavor is to help overseas athletes. And if we're working and fighting and arguing and being like, well, we're competitive, who's helping these athletes? So I think that's really the conversations that I've had, really good conversations with Jory Davis and we evolve, like just really good people out there trying to help. And I think you're going to see that we're going to figure out a way where you're going to see a few names, but we're all going to be driving to the same goal of making sure. So I think that was the big thing of limiting my competitiveness. When you're an athlete, you're like, you're not going to beat me. And now you're like, you have to work together. It's like
Yeah.
such like a Berenstain Bears novel, but I'm getting there. I'm getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us all about this. I can't wait to watch it grow. And I just think it's amazing how you're helping all these athletes and getting them, these into this transition phase of their life. Tell everybody where all your goods, where they can follow you on socials, where they can get your book, where they can hear your podcast, get the business, everything.
Of course. So if our both of our Instagrams are at Overseas Famous and at the Overseas X. Kind of, we have one of our founders went to Ohio State. So we worked with the basketball team there. So he was like, we wanted
Of
so
course you did.
the Overseas X on Instagram. Everything else, K Owens at Overseas Famous, but everything else, overseasfamous.com. We have our whole entire platform is on Overseas X, but it's a circle platform. But you can find information on it on our Instagrams, on our socials, Twitter, etc. Same thing. So yeah, that's how you can reach me. I mean, I check Instagram every day. We have a social media manager, and sometimes they'll just write me and they'll be like, "This person wrote," and I'll be like, "I don't know who that is," but like I'll try to check it every single day. So I'm on there. So if you send a message, I'll probably see it, or someone will see it and send it to me immediately. So yeah, that's how you can reach me.
All right. Well, everybody
Oh,
go
and
follow.
Amazon, buy the book on Amazon. Overseas Famous on Amazon.
This is it, guys. This is what it looks like.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. All
that's
right.
that's
Well,
me when my beard wasn't as gray.
well, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was just absolute joy. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share this with us, all of us today.
I appreciate it, JJ. I really appreciate it. I had so much fun with you. It was great talking.
All right, thanks. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. You can follow us everywhere at Tom Girl on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can get all the new episodes in your inbox. All right, guys, thanks. Have a great day. Get out there.